have every right to walk right down the aisle past all the angels and be married to Jesus. And they won't question it. Is there anybody in the audience who says this couple shouldn't be married? And no angel will say no or object. They'll agree because they have on that wedding garment. She has many other statements along that line, maybe one more. Here it is. Here's another one, January 28. Christ is cleansing the sanctuary from the sins of the people. What is our work? To be in harmony with the work of Christ. There's the word harmony. Okay, here's another one that you've heard me talk about. February 4th, the mediatorial work of Christ, the grand and holy mysteries of redemption are not studied or comprehended by the people who claim to have light in advance. We've often spoken about comprehending the length and the height and the breadth and the depth of the love of God in Christ Jesus. That's actually a quotation. The word comprehend is in Ephesians chapter 4 there. So she emphasized this over and over in 1890, and it seems that no one in Battle Creek at the time grasped what she was trying to say. And guess how they rewarded her for those series of articles? The next year they sent her off in exile to Australia. And that was a signal demonstration of a rejection of the sanctuary message, what she was trying to talk about. When she had no light to go to Australia, she believed that needed to stay here with Brethren Jones and Wagner to strengthen the revival and reformation that God was seeking to bring about among his people. Number 5, about the message of the sanctuary. In answer to our first question, the difference between Christ's ministry in the first department from his ascension to 1844 is what he does in his believers. Because up until 1844, Jesus had a very important ministry, folks, and it was to prepare believers to die so they could come up in the resurrection. And it's a blessed thing to come up in the resurrection. We've just said goodbye to a great man, Elder Robert Whelan, whose fondest desire and hope was to be a living demonstration for Jesus and to see him come in the clouds of glory. And now the Lord has had to prepare him to die and come up in the first resurrection. So it's a blessed thing to be resurrected. But in other words, he will be accounted worthy. It's a wonderful thing if one has to die to be accounted worthy to come up in the first resurrection. Great work for the high priest to do. If any of us are called to die, may we be prepared. But when looked at in its context, Jesus' ministry in the second apartment is intended especially to prepare a people to be what? Translated without tasting death, while they're still in the flesh. In other words, while they're still tempted from within. And they must see Jesus. They must meet him face to face in glory, which only the pure in heart can endure. These must, as Paul says, be alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord, and shall be caught up together with the resurrected saints of all ages to meet the Lord in the air. If we're granted that sacred privilege, our hearts will be melted with his love, won't they? Wow. So the Seventh-day Adventist sanctuary message makes special sense in light of Christ's Matthew 24 sermon. You know, according to Matthew 24, Jesus' words, he gives us the signs of the end there, you know. It was Jesus' purpose that the second coming would be within the generation of those who saw the Lisbon earthquake and the falling of the stars and the celestial signs of the darkening of the sun and of the moon. At least that's how the pioneers understood it, that within that generation, those people who had seen those signs would see the coming of the Lord. And that's what Jesus' words actually say. Now, the otherwise inexplainable delay, beyond that, because all that generation is now in the grave. See, those people who witnessed that way back in the 1800s and the 1900s. So the only explanation then for this long delay is resisting the Lord. The church has resisted the Lord in his office work. And so the Gospel Commission, in light of Revelation 18:1, of lightening the earth with his glory, it could have been accomplished within a few years of 1888, when the Lord revealed the dynamic motive power of the sanctuary message. By the way, the 1888 message was the sanctuary message. It's the message to the Church of Laodicea. Yes?
Wasn't that also the same year that Johnson Wagner went to the Congress because of the Sunday meeting? That was the same year.
You're right. Yes, it was in the same year. And so all of that was afoot. The Sabbath truth was being pressed upon them, and the Congress was considering a Sunday law. So everything was coming together in fulfillment of prophecy, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. So the delay in finishing the work of cleansing the heavenly sanctuary is not due to computer backlogs in the heavenly offices. It's not due to any angelic inefficiency. The problem lies with us, and we've been hindering the Lord in his office work. Number 6, truth. The 1888 idea also relieves minds of perplexity about what Christ is doing now. Ever had this idea that when Jesus went to heaven, what's he doing now? Well, he did some very hard work during his 33 years of saving mankind, but now he's on vacation. Ever had that idea? He's kind of happy-go-lucky, maybe absorbed in another corner of his great universe because he's got a lot of duties and responsibilities. What he does is obviously, I will say this, that Jesus is in the Pentagon war room of heaven. We could think of the most holy place as that, seeking to resolve the great controversy. Folks, that's hard work. And the most difficult part of that hard work is reconciling you and me to himself. So Jesus hasn't had a holiday since he ascended to heaven. He's been hard at work. He's not had a 3-week vacation at all.
With no pay.
With no pay. The payoff is yet to come. What did you say?
And what a glorious sight that was.
And it will be a glorious sight, she says. And let me assure you that the battle of the great controversy is far more intense than just nuclear bombs. This is psychological warfare, let me tell you. Real psychological warfare that's going on right now. And it's only right for God's people to sympathize with Christ in his office work. That would be his reward, wouldn't it? To identify with him, to sympathize with him, what he's doing. To be with him, to say, Lord, I want to help you to resolve this great controversy thing. Satan has injected this thing that he invented called sin into our hearts. And we talk about how we're fed up with it and we want to go home to heaven in a very self-centered way, but we never think of Jesus and have a sympathetic heart toward him. And maybe that's all the problem, because our concern to be delivered from sin is all self-centered and not centered upon him and his desires. So this is what Ellen White means about following Christ into the second apartment, and that is to have sympathy with him. Follow him by faith into the most holy. Number 7, the 1888 idea of the cleansing of this. Okay, now are you getting the significance of this? We're taking the sanctuary message beyond the mathematics and beyond the timeline chart to the real meaning of it and the real depth of it that warms our hearts, see? So the 1888 idea of the cleansing of the sanctuary also imparts to those who understand it a new motivation for following Christ. And we've talked about this many times, but how many people have feared the investigative judgment, to come before the judgment seat of Christ? I have to confess. I have to confess, huh? She says, I guess we all do. Fear of the investigative. Well, the beautiful 1888 message idea, the cleansing of the sanctuary, is to cast out that fear of the investigative judgment. To cast out that fear. This again is part of the cosmic day of atonement, a time for at last realized oneness with Christ. It delivers from fear as much as he himself was delivered from fear in his life on earth. It's our natural self-centered concerns for salvation are sublimated in a higher concern for the triumph of Christ. So that's again a result of a Day of Atonement oneness with him. The sanctuary truth leads also, number 8, directly to this bride of Christ making herself ready. There's a connection between the cleansing of the sanctuary and the bride making herself ready. That oneness is something that has never happened in all of past history. The marriage of the Lamb is come, for his wife hath made herself ready. That's Revelation 19. Verses 6 through 9. Something special is ready for those who are invited to the marriage of the supper of the Lamb. As individuals, all, including those of the last days, are guests at the wedding. But as a corporate body, the church of the great day of atonement becomes the bride of Christ. There's no way that I could get Candace ready for our wedding. I tried to hurry it up. I wanted it 2 months sooner than what she wanted. And I found out I couldn't get married unless I was on her clock. Well, Jesus is in a sense on our clock. He's waiting to get married when the body of people on this earth make themselves ready. Because there's no way that Jesus can force us to put on his wedding garment that he gives to us. There is something that we have to do to make ourselves ready. And an important dimension of that is to believe this wonderful, heart-reconciling truth of the sanctuary message. Number 9, the message of the true witness to the angel of the church of the Laodiceans turns out to be the sanctuary truth itself. So the latter rain is the message of the sanctuary truth. Now White tells us that the 1888 message was the beginning of the latter rain. And the latter rain message is the sanctuary truth. The message to the church to the Laodiceans. This message has not become a museum piece in our denominational attic. It grips hearts worldwide today, wherever it is presented. The Holy Spirit impresses souls who seek to follow Christ of his much more abounding grace for overcoming. The sanctuary message that the Lord in his great mercy sent to us has yet to lighten the earth with glory. And thank God it will, and that very soon. So the message that will lighten the earth with God, with the glory of God, Revelation 18:1, is the truth of the sanctuary message. And it's the message to the Laodicean church.